I was sitting on a cold park bench at 11:47 p.m. when my phone buzzed. I remember the time because I kept staring at it, hoping the numbers would change, hoping this night would somehow undo itself. The message was from my CEO. "Where are you right now?" I hesitated before replying. My fingers were shaking, not from the cold, but from embarrassment. 2 weeks earlier, I had still been an assistant in a glass-walled office. Now, I was homeless, broke, and pretending my life hadn't collapsed. "Still at the office, working late," I typed. The lie tasted bitter. There was no office anymore. I'd been laid off that morning, quietly, politely, with a practiced smile and a folder slid across the desk. Budget cuts, that was the excuse. What they didn't know was that the job was the only thing holding my life together. My rent was overdue, my savings were gone, and the friend I was supposed to crash with had stopped answering my calls. Another message came through. "You can't stay there all night." I stared at the screen. Then the third message arrived. "Come to my place, just for tonight." I should have said no. Every instinct I had screamed that this was a bad idea. CEOs didn't invite former assistants to their houses after midnight. Nothing good ever started that way. But desperation has a way of silencing good judgment. I looked around the park. The lights flickered. A man slept under a newspaper a few benches away. My bag was the only thing I owned that still felt like proof I existed. So I replied, "Okay." His house was nothing like I imagined. I expected something cold and intimidating, steel, glass, silence. Instead, it was warm, soft lighting, a quiet kind of luxury that didn't try to impress you. He opened the door himself. No suit, no tie, just a plain sweater, sleeves rolled up, like he was trying very hard to look normal. "You look exhausted," he said. That was it. No questions, no judgment. I almost cried right there. He showed me to the guest room and handed me a towel. "Shower first. There are clean clothes in the drawer. You can sleep as long as you want." I waited for the condition, the look, the implication. It never came. That night, nothing happened. No touching, no flirting, no awkward conversation. I slept on clean sheets for the first time in days, staring at the ceiling, wondering how my life had fallen so far and why this felt like the calm before something terrible. I woke up to my phone vibrating violently beside me. Missed calls, messages, emails, all from work. HR, my former manager, a number I didn't recognize. Then I saw the subject line that made my stomach drop. "Urgent. Clarification required." Before I could open it, another message came in. "Is it true?" I didn't understand the question, so I asked what everyone else was asking me. "Is what true?" The reply came instantly. "That you slept with the CEO to keep your job?" My hands went numb. I sat up, heart racing, still wrapped in the blanket from his house, when another message appeared. This one with an attachment. A photo. Grainy. Taken through a window. Me walking into his house the night before. The timestamp was clear, and the caption underneath read, "This is how she got promoted." I hadn't even been promoted. I hadn't even touched him. But by morning, the story had already been decided. If you've ever had a moment where one decision changed everything, stay with me. What happens next is worse than you think. By 9:13 a.m., I was trending inside a company I no longer worked for. I know that because a former coworker, someone I used to eat lunch with, sent me a screenshot. Company-wide Slack channel, my name, and a thread so long I couldn't see the top of it. Some messages were subtle. I always wondered how she got so close to him. This explains a lot, honestly. Others weren't. Disgusting. Another gold digger pretending to be a victim. Fire her. I had already been fired. That didn't stop them. I called HR. Straight to voicemail. I called my former manager. It rang once, then stopped. Blocked. I sat on the edge of the guest bed, my chest tight, replaying the night over and over, searching for the moment I'd messed up. Had I smiled wrong? Stood too close? Said something that could be twisted? Nothing. There was nothing. Downstairs, I could hear movement. Cabinets opening, a coffee machine humming. He was awake. The CEO. The man whose kindness had just detonated my life. I walked down the stairs slowly, my phone still buzzing in my hand like it was alive. He looked up when he saw me. For half a second, his expression changed. He'd already seen it. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," I said, my voice cracking before I could stop it. "People are saying things, really bad things." He didn't answer right away. He glanced at my phone screen where another message had just come in. "You should be ashamed of yourself." He exhaled slowly, then said the sentence that would haunt me for months. "This is unfortunate." Unfortunate. Not false, not a lie, not wrong, just unfortunate. "I didn't tell anyone," I said quickly. "I swear, I didn't say a word." "I know," he replied, but he didn't sound relieved. He sounded annoyed. "I'll have my lawyer handle it," he said. "You should probably leave soon." Leave? Like I was a problem that needed to be cleaned up before it stained something expensive? By noon, the story had escaped the company. Someone had posted it anonymously on a gossip forum. CEO sleeps with assistant, company covers it up. My face wasn't visible in the photo, but people didn't need proof. They needed a villain. And I fit perfectly. A woman, recently fired, no public defense. I watched strangers dissect my life like it was entertainment. They guessed my age, my intentions, my morality. One comment had over 400 likes. Women like her always play innocent. I wanted to scream. I wanted to respond to every single one of them. Instead, I shut my phone off and stared at the wall, realizing something much worse than public shame was happening. The CEO was protecting himself, and the easiest way to do that was to let me take the fall. That afternoon, an email finally came through, not from HR, from legal. "We advise you not to make any public statements regarding recent events. No apology, no clarification, no acknowledgement of the damage being done, just silence wrapped in legal language." I was being erased. I packed my bag quietly. When I reached the door, I hesitated. "I trusted you," I said, not looking back. "I helped you," he replied. And just like that, the line was drawn. Kindness had turned into a transaction. I stepped outside. The door closed behind me with a soft click that somehow felt louder than everything else that day. By evening, my bank app showed a balance I couldn't survive on. By night, my inbox filled with messages from people I didn't recognize. Some offered money for silence, others offered insults for free. But one message stopped me cold. It was from a name I didn't know. No profile picture, no signature, just one sentence. "If you want the truth to come out, stop trusting the people who benefit from your silence." I stared at the screen. My heart pounded. For the first time since morning, something else crept in alongside fear. Hope. If you think the story ends with me disappearing quietly, don't go anywhere. The person who sent that message knew something no one else did. I didn't reply to the message right away. I read it again and again, trying to figure out if it was a threat, a scam, or just another cruel joke from someone enjoying my downfall. If you want the truth to come out, stop trusting the people who benefit from your silence. Who had seen me? The photo that started everything had been taken from outside the house. That meant someone had been watching, waiting. I sat in a cheap cafe near the bus station, nursing the same cup of coffee for over an hour when my phone buzzed again. Same number. You didn't sleep with him. My breath caught. I know because I was there. I typed back so fast I misspelled half the words. Who are you? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Someone who cleans up after powerful men. We met in the last place I expected, a quiet underground parking garage beneath a luxury apartment complex. He told me to stand near the elevator and not look around too much. "You're already being watched," he texted, "just not by the people you think." When I saw him, my first thought was that he didn't look like someone who could change anything. Middle-aged, worn jacket, eyes that had seen too much and trusted too little. "I'm the night maintenance supervisor," he said. "I was working at the house that night." My chest tightened. "You took the photo?" I asked. "No," he said immediately, "but I saw who did." He told me everything. About the second car parked across the street that night, about the woman who waited inside it for nearly an hour, about the way she smiled when you walked in, like the ending had already been written. "She works for him," he said. "Not officially, personal assistant, very loyal." My stomach sank. I knew who he meant. She'd always hated me, always corrected me in meetings, always smiled too wide when I messed up. "She followed you," he continued, "took the photo, sent it where it needed to go." "Why?" I whispered. He didn't answer right away. "Because powerful men don't fall on their own swords," he said finally. "Someone always makes sure the blade lands somewhere else." He handed me a small flash drive. "There's security footage," he said, "from inside the house. Hallways, kitchen, entryway." My heart raced. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. He looked at me for a long moment. "Because I've watched women like you get destroyed for things men walk away from every day. And because I'm retiring in 6 months. Nothing to lose, everything to give." That night, I watched the footage, every second of it. Me entering the house, him showing me the guest room, the lights turning off. Nothing inappropriate. No touching, no door closing, just silence. But there was something else. A reflection in the window, a shadow moving outside, a car door closing. Proof that the story everyone believed had been manufactured. The next morning, I woke up to an email from legal. "We noticed increased online activity regarding this matter. We strongly advise against further escalation." They knew, which meant I wasn't powerless anymore. I was dangerous. I didn't go public right away. I waited. Because the best revenge isn't loud, it's precise. If you're still with me, comment truth below. What happens next only worked because I didn't rush. For 3 days, I said nothing. No posts, no interviews, no emotional responses. Online, people took my silence as guilt. "See, she disappeared. They always do when they're caught." Behind the scenes, something very different was happening. I sent exactly 4 emails, one to legal, one to HR, one to a journalist I'd met years earlier at a conference, and one to the CEO himself. The subject line was the same on all of them: evidence. Legal replied first, carefully, coldly. We acknowledge receipt. Please refrain from distributing any materials without prior consultation. HR didn't reply at all. The journalist replied within 10 minutes, if this is real, we need to talk. The CEO waited until midnight. His message was short. What do you want? I stared at the screen. For the first time since this started, I felt steady. The truth, I typed, and my name cleared. He didn't respond. The next morning, the journalist and I met in a small office that smelled like old paper and burnt coffee. I showed her everything: the footage, the timestamps, the metadata. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. You know this won't just hurt him, she said. It'll expose how the company protects people like him. I know, I replied. And you're okay with that? I thought about the park bench, the messages, the way the word unfortunate had landed like a verdict. Yes, I said. That afternoon, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Private. I answered. We can make this go away, a man said. There will be compensation. How much is my reputation worth? I asked. He paused. Name a number. I smiled for the first time in days. That's not how truth works, I said, and hung up. The article went live at 7 a.m. the following day. It didn't name me in the headline. It didn't need to. Leaked footage challenges viral CEO scandal. Company faces questions. Inside the article was everything: the footage, the timeline, the assistant's involvement, and one line that changed the narrative completely. Sources confirm the woman involved was never under investigation for misconduct. By noon, the company's stock dipped. By 2 p.m., the CEO's calendar was cleared. By evening, he was no longer returning calls. I watched the news in a quiet library, my phone on silent. Messages flooded in: apologies, support, regret. But one message stood out. From him. We need to talk. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because some conversations are better had in public. If you believe silence can be louder than screaming, stay with me. The ending isn't what people expect. The board meeting was supposed to be private. That's what they said in the email sent to senior executives at 6:30 a.m. What they didn't expect was how many people would be watching anyway. By the time I arrived at the building, news vans were already lining the street, cameras pointed upward, waiting for a face that hadn't shown itself in days. I stood across the road, hood pulled low, blending into the crowd. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't hiding out of fear. I was waiting. Inside the building, the CEO entered through a side door. No smile, no confident stride, just a man moving quickly, avoiding eye contact, surrounded by people who suddenly looked unsure of him. The journalist texted me updates in real time. Board is tense, legal is pushing hard, assistant hasn't shown up. That last one made my heart skip. She disappeared. The woman who took the photo, the woman who smiled while my life burned, gone. At 10:17 a.m., the article was updated. A new paragraph. Sources confirm the internal investigation has expanded to include potential manipulation of evidence and abuse of authority. That's when the phones inside the building started ringing, relentlessly. By noon, the word suspended began circulating. By 1:30, it became resigned. By 2 p.m., the truth landed where it hurt most. The board had voted unanimously. I found out the same way everyone else did, a push notification. CEO steps down amid expanding scandal. I stared at my screen, waiting for the rush of victory. It didn't come. What I felt instead was exhaustion. That evening, he called again. This time, I answered. "I never meant for it to go this far," he said. I laughed softly. "Neither did I replied. Silence stretched between us. "They're asking questions," he continued, "about why I stayed quiet." "And what are you telling them?" I asked. "That I was advised to." I nodded. Of course he was. "You could have ended this the first morning," I said. "All you had to do was tell the truth." He didn't respond. "You chose silence because it was convenient. I chose truth because it was all I had left." Another pause. Then quietly he said, "I'm sorry." It was the first time I'd heard the words, and somehow it was too late. The assistant resurfaced 2 days later. She was escorted out of her apartment by lawyers. The same gossip forms that had torn me apart now turned on her. The irony didn't escape me, but I didn't celebrate that either, because I finally understood something important. The system didn't collapse, it just shifted the blame to the next weakest person. That night, I sat alone rereading messages from strangers who said my story gave them courage. One message stood out. "I stayed silent when this happened to me. I won't anymore." I closed my eyes. That was the win. If you've ever been blamed for someone else's power, tap follow. Stories like this don't end when the headlines fade. The morning after everything ended, I woke up before my alarm. No buzzing phone, no breaking news, no accusations waiting to swallow me whole. Just silence. For the first time in weeks, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space. I made coffee in a small studio apartment that didn't belong to me. Not yet. A friend had offered it, without questions, without conditions. I stood by the window and watched the city move like nothing had happened. Cars still honked, people still rushed, power still belonged to the same places. The world hadn't changed. I had. Later that day, I received an email from HR. A different tone this time. Formal, apologetic, careful. They confirmed what the article had already said, that I had never been under investigation, that no misconduct had occurred, that my termination was unrelated to any allegations. Too neat, too late. I didn't reply. Some truths don't need acknowledgement once they've already been proven. I went for a walk that evening, something I hadn't done since before the park bench, before the night that rewrote my life. People passed me without knowing who I was, and for the first time, that anonymity felt like freedom. No labels, no assumptions, no story attached to my name. Just me. I thought about the CEO, about how easily power protects itself, about how quickly silence becomes strategy, and I realized something uncomfortable. He hadn't been a villain. He'd been a system, one that worked exactly as designed. What surprised me most wasn't how fast the company moved on. It was how many messages I continued to receive, weeks later, from women, from interns, from assistants, from people who'd watched quietly as something similar happened to them. They weren't asking for justice, they were asking how I survived it. And the truth was simple. I stopped waiting for permission to be believed. I never went back to that industry, not because I was afraid, but because I finally understood my worth didn't need to be negotiated in rooms where silence was currency. I started over, slower, smaller, honest, and for the first time, my life felt like it belonged to me again. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that first message. Where are you right now? If I could answer it now, I'd say this: I'm standing, I'm seen, and I'm no longer quiet for anyone who benefits from my disappearance. If you've ever felt erased by someone else's power, you're not alone. Follow for stories that remind you how strength really looks.